What's going on, guys? Welcome back to Gotians Games, and today's video, it's a rather serious subject. But I think, in all honesty, that the subject matter, while it's serious, I feel like it might be taken out of proportion just a tad by adults and parents these days. Now, the title of the subject for today is video game addiction is a mental health disorder. World Health Organization say. Okay, so addiction's a real thing. Okay, I'm not going to say that it's not. I'm not going to, pretend that I'm not going to sit here pretending that addictions aren't real, because they are. 100% they are. There's alcohol abuse, there's addiction to drugs, there's addiction to sex, there's addiction to anything, really. You can be addicted to anything. But it's not really, that doesn't really go to say that it's the fault of whatever you're addicted to. It's really a disorder. It's a mental disorder because you have a likeliness to become addicted to whatever it is. So it's not really like, and that's okay, and that's what I feel like this article, or these articles, because it's more than just this one. This article today that we're taking a look at is coming to us from NBC News. There's also an article on Kotaku about it. There's articles everywhere regarding this new thing that the World Health Organization is talking about. Now, I feel like it's more of an attack on video games than it is to make people aware about addictions. But let's go ahead and take a look at this article, and then we'll talk about it further. Okay, so many parents already have concerns, but some may now have a new argument for limiting their children's screen time. Addiction to video games has been recognized by World Health Organization as a mental health disorder. The WHO's, you're going to call them WHO's. Okay, the WHO's International Clarification of Diseases, a reference Bible of recognized and diagnosable diseases, describes addiction to digital and video gaming as a pattern of persistent or recurrent gaming behavior that becomes so extensive it takes precedence over other life interests. That part right there can be said towards any addiction. That's not necessarily video game addiction, that's any addiction. When it comes to a point, if you're an alcoholic and it comes to the point that you're finding yourself drunk no matter where you are, or needing a drink no matter where you are, to the point that, say, you're at work and you have a bottle of scotch in your desk that is half empty, and you find yourself pouring a drink in between of meetings or things like that, yes, you're addicted. When you find yourself unable to curve that nicotine addiction or that nicotine craving, and you absolutely have to have a cigarette, you are addicted to nicotine. If you are in a position where you absolutely have to have a soda, you're getting headaches, you need to have a soda to make yourself feel better, you're addicted to sodas, potentially sugar or caffeine. There's a lot of different types of addictions. Okay, so that right there, where it takes precedence over other life interests, that is addiction 101. Not necessarily against video games. But let's continue reading the article. The WHO's expert on mental health and substance abuse, Shekhar Saxena, that's an A, not an E, said some of the worst cases seen in global research were of gamers playing for up to 20 hours a day, foregoing sleep, meals, work, or school, and other daily activities. He stressed that only a small minority of people who play digital and video games would develop a problem, but said recognition of early warning signs may help prevent it. Okay, that's fair. This is an occasional and transitory behavior, he said, adding that only if such behaviors persist for around a year could a potential diagnosis of a disorder be made. So you basically have to wait until a year of a person doing this to themselves before you consider it a disorder. I I would argue that you could actually catch this within about a week. Okay, because if a person is sitting down for 20 hours a day, foregoing eating, foregoing sleeping, foregoing school, work, uh, going to the bathroom, that can be all caught within a week. All right. So yeah. Um, let's continue on. Responding to decision to include gaming addiction, the Video Games Coalition, an industry lobby group, said their products were enjoyed safely and sensibly by more than 2 billion people worldwide across all genres, devices, and platforms. It added that the educational, therapeutic, and recreational value of games was well founded and widely recognized, and urged the WHO to reconsider. The ICD, which has been updated over the past 10 years, covers 55,000 injuries, diseases, and causes of death. It forms the basis of the WHO and other experts to see and respond to trends in health. It enables us to understand so much about what makes people get sick and die, and to take action to prevent suffering and save lives. WHO Director General these guys have weird names. I'm sorry. Said in a statement as the ICD was published. The ICD is also used by health insurers whose reimbursements depend on ICD classifications. This latest version, known as ICD 11, is completely electronic for the first time in an effort to make it more accessible to doctors and other health workers around. That's not important. ICD 11 also changes to sexual health classifications. Previous editions had categorized. That's not important either. Why are they talking about that? It's not important to the subject here. The subject matter is talking about video gaming addiction. Let's jump over to Kotaku article really quick, just because it has a little bit more information here. Let's go down here. Okay, so a pattern of persistent or recurrent video or gaming behavior, digital gaming or video gaming, which may be outlined or which may be online or offline, manifested by impaired control over gaming. Example: onset, frequency, intensity, duration, termination, context, increasing priority given to gaming to the extent that gaming takes precedence over other life interests and daily activities, and continuation or escalation of gaming despite the occurrence of negative consequences. The behavior pattern is of sufficient severity to result in significant impairment in personal, family, social, educational, occupational, and other important areas of functioning. Okay. All right, so let's talk about this for a minute, okay? Because to be fair, I have done my fair share of gaming, to the point that if it was these days when I was younger, specifically, I would say around my elementary to middle school days, it could be easily seen as video game addiction these days. And this is why I say that it could potentially just be taken a little bit overboard. And again, I'm not saying that video game addiction can't be a real thing. I'm not saying that at all, because addiction is addiction regardless of what you're addicted to. And if you are addicted to something, you should seek some help to break yourself away from that addiction. Okay, so when I was younger, I played video games a lot, to the point that I would take a Game Boy with me everywhere I went. Okay, so I would be at family gatherings, sitting on the sofa playing on my Game Boy. I would be at family events playing on my Game Boy. I would be in the car playing on my Game Boy. But here's the thing. It's not so much that I was addicted to it, more so that I was bored out of my mind. Okay, so I had nothing else to do except play on my Game Boy. I should also note that while I carried around my Game Boy with me basically at all times, so much that I had like a little fanny pack that I put my Game Boy and my games into, that was, it was an official Nintendo thing. This was back in the 90s, guys. Fanny packs were a thing. They were popular back then. So while that's being said, it's also to note that I would also carry around a book with me, because I would also be reading all the time. So if I was not playing my video games, because Game Boys back then took 4 AA batteries, and let's be honest, when they were dead, they were dead. Okay, it's not like I could go and get batteries whenever I chose to. A lot of times I would keep extra batteries with me just in case my batteries did die. So, with that being said, I had a book to entertain myself after the batteries died. So it's not so much that I was addicted, but more so that I was bored because there wasn't much for me to do at a family gathering where I was the only child there, or at a family gathering where everybody spoke only Spanish and I had no way to carry a conversation with people because I didn't speak Spanish back then. Now I speak some Spanish. I understand more than I speak it, but that's besides the point. So I had to find ways to entertain myself. So I carried around my Game Boy everywhere I went. That nowadays could be considered addicted. And I know for a fact it was not addiction. But these days, it makes it easier for people to become addicted because everything is available on phones. So you could be anywhere playing a video game, but here's where the differences lie. If it's not interfering with your other activities or it's not interfering with your daily activities, then it's not addiction. Really, more so, you just covering your boredom. I could be out with my family and not play a video game. I could be out with my family and play a video game. So, for example, if I'm at Disney World and I'm waiting in a line for 2 hours, I'm going to be playing a video game because, hell, I'm not going to just stand there for 2 hours and not do something. So, I'm going to be playing a video game. If I'm going to see a movie, for example, and I'm waiting in the line for them to let us into the movie because it's a premiere and I got there super early because I do that, I'm going to be playing a video game while I wait in the line by myself. So, I can see where they would be concerned about video game addiction. Like I said, addiction is a real thing. I'm not taking away from that. But I do want to make a case in point that things might be looked at as addiction, but it's not really addiction. Knowing when to turn off the device, knowing when to take a break is very important. And if you know how to do that, that is a sure sign that you are not addicted. I have sat down and played video games for 10 to 20 hours at a time because I had nothing else to do. This was before I had a car. This was before I was able to do whatever I wanted. So I had nothing else to do on a Saturday except stay home playing video games because my parents would be working or I just didn't have friends around to hang out with. So knowing what the differences are between the addiction and being just bored and not having anything else to do is very, very important. And I'm going to leave that to you guys. Leave a comment down below. Let's have that conversation like always. I want to know your thoughts and opinions on this. These are my thoughts and opinions on this whole video game addiction thing. Make sure you guys are hitting the like button, subscribe, and if you guys are new, share the video out. Let's talk about video game addiction or just addiction in general. If you guys do have addiction, make sure that you guys do get some help. Admitting that you have a problem is always the first step to recovery. And there's nothing wrong with asking for help, guys. With that, I will catch you all in the next video. I know it's a heavy subject that we're talking about today, but it's a very important subject. You guys have a great rest of your day. Peace out, guys.